Niki, Nitanikawa Sarah Sinclair, Nitsinikatsum, um, Sarah, Nitomototomo Kinstis. My name's Sarah. I'm born and raised in Calgary, but my band membership is at Peguis First Nation, which is a Treaty One nation. I'm a First Nations person from that area. I am the lawyer for Sahwoo, mohkaak, which is Calgary Legal Guidance's Indigenous Justice Program. We got gifted a Blackfoot phrase, which means before being judged.
Dansa, hi everyone. Kaylin Marasti Nitsadiga Sun, Pelicaneros Utsinida. My name is Kaylin Marasti, and my home community is Pelicaneros. I am Woodland Cree from Treaty 6 territory in northern Saskatchewan. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the program manager for the sexual violence program here at CLG. The program aims to support survivors and connect them with resources, as well as provide legal navigation and legal information.
Okay, Tansy. I am Gabriel Chen. I am a settler originally from Halifax, Nova Scotia, the traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq people. I have lived in Calgary since 2005, where I came fresh out of law school to practice law. And I serve as the Senior Counsel of Litigation Services here at Calgary Legal Guidance. And so this is one of the teams that I help supervise, and I use he, him pronouns, and I'm grateful to be able to practice law and support our Indigenous colleagues and clients and community.
So Sahwoo, mohkaak, taas began in 2015 under the guidance of our then executive director, Marina Jackaman, who hired the first Indigenous person to work in this program. At the time, it didn't yet have a name, but the need for CLG to follow the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action and improve our Indigenous services was very apparent at the time. And so a liaison started working at Calgary Legal Guidance to help begin to make relations between CLG and other organizations that serve Indigenous folks. Over the years, the program developed as our capacity grew, as our internal trainings grew, and as our funding grew. The program was able to fund a position for a lawyer. I was the first lawyer in that position. I began this job in 2019, and I've been here ever since. Throughout its history, the program has seen now 12 students, beginning back in 2013 when I was the first Indigenous student to join CLG as part of CLG's reconciliation journey.
CLG has been on our Truth and Reconciliation for many years now. And while we've been doing this imperfectly, we are very consciously do this trying to preserve and practice the lessons that we've received during this time. So through the various elders and knowledge keepers that we have collaborated with, who have come in and taught us, through our Indigenous Advisory Council that meets with us throughout the year, and through all the different Indigenous staff and community members who have shared with us how it is that we can approach our work in a good way. We work to orally record these lessons, and then we also preserve those in other ways through the knowledge book that Sarah has developed for her program for the organization. And in all the people that join us as volunteers, as staff, and donors, been a great honor for CLG to participate in many different committees, circles, creations, working groups to try and advance justice, and in those circles to ensure that truth and reconciliation are centered.
So when it comes to representing individuals, a major part of the program, we accept individuals, Indigenous people with all kinds of legal problems, as long as it's within my capacity or the capacity of the organization to serve them in that legal area, of course. Last year, we had 162 Indigenous program participants. And I believe that the number has been steadily increasing ever since this program, Sahwoo taas, was established, which is a great success. We also had 3 public-facing events where I spoke to the public on different Indigenous legal topics with 27 participants. And then within CLG and just for our stakeholders, we hosted 9 events to expose people to cultural teachings. 77 participants came to those. You asked me what it's like to be a client here. The client might be just wondering how to start navigating their justice journey. They might be in the middle of it. They might have just been released from jail. They might have an upcoming court date that they're nervous about, or they might be needing legal information about how to uphold their rights as an Indigenous person. So the person can come in at any time in their legal quest. When the person is facing criminal charges, the first thing I do, and the first thing that I hope the program does and that CLG does in general, is to ask what the Indigenous legal principles are that may apply to this matter. In the criminal context, the Indigenous legal principles that apply are reciprocity and restoration, the restoration of right relations. And we can pursue these legal principles through the court, the Indigenous community court. But even if an Indigenous person is not in that specific courtroom, I can help them pursue those Indigenous legal principles through my own practice. The funding that we receive from CPIP allows us to do this work in a good way. It is essential for our Indigenous clients to be connected back to culture. And the funding from CPIP allows us to provide our clients with those cultural connections. For example, we bring in elders to do circles with us, both sharing circles and celebration circles. We can also offer clients access to ceremony, including sweat, which for some people is a really big deal because it's hard to find ceremony when one is embedded in the urban community. Through these connections to culture, we have observed our clients going back into community and spreading the good news, the good work, the good things that they've learned about themselves, their indigeneity and their culture. And we see the spread throughout community, creating a bigger, wider sense of safety and helping the individuals and their families avoid interactions with the criminal legal system in the future. I would say that the CPIP funding provides us a way to create that essential connection to culture that serves us and our clientele and all of our stakeholders. We have also seen 5 liaisons come and go, each one of whom served the organization by sharing their cultural learnings with us and helping us access experiences like teepee teachings and going on the land with elders to drink tea with one another, visiting medicine wheels, head smashed in buffalo, and having elders come in and serve our organization by providing us with ceremony. The program specifically has 2 main goals. One is systemic change through the provision of justice for Indigenous folks. So what that looks like is trying to create change within the Western legal system to better support Indigenous people's journey through that system. The other goal is to provide Indigenous individuals with legal services, which we do in a variety of legal areas. Under the program headings education, making relations, knowledge keeping, and client services. The program operates several training opportunities per year, including things like beading in the boardroom, which is a recent addition to the program where we meet to bead and talk about our respective cultures and learn more about the art and culture of each other at CLG, inspired by Indigenous beadwork. We also provide legal education to the public when they ask for it, and we provide legal clinics in public, one right now at the Friendship Center and soon to be one at Circle of Wisdom. We also provide cultural educational opportunities for stakeholders outside the organization. For example, law students. We get requested to come and visit the law school to talk about what it means to practice reconciliation as a lawyer. As part of our journey, we have developed a strategy for evaluating ourselves internally using an Indigenous evaluation strategy. We also needed to find a good way, an Indigenous way, to share our teachings with our funders, such as CPIP. Over the years, our conscious and intentional efforts to create a way of gathering knowledge for funders developed into what we're calling now truthing celebrations. So as truthing celebrations look now, we gather together in our ethical space, which at CLG is called Ini Mois, meaning Buffalo Lodge. So our cultural room is a safe space to meet with our Indigenous clients and colleagues to smudge together, and in this case, to celebrate the successes of our clients. We ask the client to come in and we bring an elder in, and then we sit in circle and talk about the client's experience at CLG and within the legal system. Out of the truthing circles come resoundingly the client's stories of success and their happiness at feeling heard and empowered by us at CLG. I'll provide a quick example of a truthing circle that we've had most recently. I have a client in Indigenous court who is doing very, very well on his healing journey, and he's almost complete. The result of his work over the 1.5 years that he's been in the Indigenous court is that he will have his criminal charges withdrawn, because he has done all kinds of programming, both Western and Indigenous. But most importantly, this man didn't have access to his culture before he came into CLG and Indigenous court, and now he does. He's proud of it, he's teaching it to his sons, and he's becoming a peer support worker in community. He's joining one of the circles that he first participated in as a client, and he's going to be a peer support worker because he has grown so much over the last 1.5 years, mainly through his connections to his personal, his identity and his culture. This is, as I said before, a resounding success story, and it was wonderful to have him speak to me and the elder to let me gift him with a blanket, which does have protocols around it. We do that in a good way using the teachings of our elders, because a blanket signifies a significant milestone. And we then are able to record the story in a good way. I usually write down a narrative and provide it to our funders, who are almost universally happy to read about the success that we're having in preventing future crime from happening. We do this with the funding from CPIP, and over the years, we have improved the provision of our services to the point where we feel confident in providing ethical, culturally appropriate services.
So I articled here at CLG, as Sarah mentioned, so I can kind of provide some insight into what my time was like when articling. So I had many opportunities to connect with my own Indigenous culture, as well as other Indigenous cultures in the area. Uh, so what I really loved about working here at CLG is that having those opportunities to participate in ceremonies. We had a pipe ceremony a few months ago, and we had an elder come in, and he provided us with some teachings. It was very special, and it really reminded me of the roles that we play in the lives of our clients. So we come in during one of the most stressful and probably traumatic times in a client's life, and we really need to own that and recognize that. We need to be the guide for people navigating the legal system, a guide for them navigating these very Western and colonial systems. So we have to really be strong advocates for our clients to understand the responsibility that holds. So I think this all ties in with being culturally grounded and provides another level of understanding of our Indigenous clients. For me, it provided me with more understanding.
In particular, there are ethical requirements for all lawyers to raise some of issues with our Indigenous clients and advise the court of systemic factors of intergenerational trauma that clients have experienced, so that they can be treated in a holistic way, in a way that recognizes historic injustice and other things that Indigenous peoples and their communities have experienced. And this is complicated and challenging because of the pain that it can involve. One Indigenous justice practitioner shared with me that she considered it to be like doing open heart surgery on someone, because they were sharing experiences with her that were so deeply personal, and that it was part of her professional duty to make sure that she, properly closed, looked after the person's heart afterwards, so that that this would be a healing experience for them instead of more trauma. And so that's something that we are always trying to do, not perfectly, but I think that we lean on each other and we try to remember the lessons that elders and knowledge keepers, our community partners and others have passed on to us about how to engage with people in respectful ways. And I can think of lots of times as well when my Indigenous clients have been generous, patient with me in that, and always with a lot of good humor. So we're in a continuous process of learning, unlearning, and trying to develop healthier practices that we pass on. I am the supervisor of the clinical student team, which includes CLG's articling students, our law students, the students that are seconding to us from other firms and organizations. And so this is something that we are trying to always make time for, particularly for ones that may not be for us as long, or are coming to us from another organization, because many of them don't necessarily have the connections, the resources that we have had. And it has been a great blessing for me to see a lot of people come away from their time saying how they have come to experience and engage with Indigenous peoples in a very different way, one in which where like they are more committed to truth and reconciliation in their personal lives, in their professional work. And this is something that is can be rare, but we're really proud of being able to do that kind of work here at CLG.
I am really proud of what CLG does to participate at a systems or community level to promote the inclusion of Indigenous worldviews. We do this in several ways. We're modeling excellent allyship, from the director down to the grassroots folks who are serving the people on the front line. CLG has really embraced It's collective and individual journeys of reconciliation. We're modeling Indigenous legal practices by incorporating healing plans, ceremony, and access to the land. And I think one of the most important things we do to participate at a systems or community level is sharing ceremony with our stakeholders, not just the clients and not just for ourselves, but we bring in our friends, people who might not have access to ceremony, and we share those things with everybody who needs to, so that everyone can see the importance of ceremony when it comes to connecting people with their culture, promoting safety within the community, and being a culturally safe space at CLG and in community. I would just like to close out my personal thoughts by expressing gratitude towards the elders, the knowledge keepers, and the funders who are leading us in this work in a good way. To do oral reporting is very meaningful for me personally, because over my journey in this program the last few years, we've made really significant steps towards not just indigenizing a Western organization, but truly incorporating Indigenous legal principles such as oral reporting. It really goes a long way to creating ethical space here at CLG, meaning that we can, with good hearts, call ourselves a safe place for individuals and community members to come to get legal services and to be able to practice their Indigenous legal principles. So we are very grateful that we have the opportunity to make these steps forward in what we consider to be the right direction and in a good way.